Hello, it's Danny the Plumber, and in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about ABS drain pipe. Here's an example of 1.5 inch ABS pipe, a couple fittings I have here. The first thing I want to talk about is how to properly cut this stuff. You can cut this with some sort of hacksaw or any kind of job saw will work most of the time, but the professionals use what's called a tubing cutter, but not just any tubing cutter. This tubing cutter's blade is especially made for the ABS. And that's done simply by getting your measurement, closing the tubing cutter, tightening it down till it's pretty tight, but you don't want to start too tight, and going back and forth. What you don't want to do is just start with one motion like this, because what will happen is it'll start tracking, which means the blade will start wandering in one direction or the other. So a back and forth movement until you've got a nice groove in it is the correct way to do this. And as I'm going along, I'm also tightening this thing as it becomes looser because there's a groove starting to form. So I just go along like that, give it a little tighten like this, and it's almost cut, just like that. As you can see, it's a perfect, straight, nice cut. So now it's time to glue it. You will need the proper ABS cement or glue. They call it cement, which is just a glue, essentially. And here I've got a fitting. This is a quarter bend, which is essentially a 90. And the proper way to do this, I like to start with the fitting, and I'll tell you why in a second. And that is because just go around the whole edge, make sure you get all of this area nice and glue in there. The reason I like to do the fitting first is because now I can set that down. If I were to do the pipe first, I could not set it down on my paper towel without it getting dried up. Quickly, you also want to do two sides of each, the pipe and the fitting, and you want to make sure you got enough that covers all the way back on the fitting and all around in a 360. And so you can see that I've got enough right there. It's just plenty glue. And you want to push it in and turn at least a quarter of a turn while holding it for about 5 or 10 seconds. And this, what happens is you won't get a push out if you hold it for at least 5 or 10 seconds. That's it, really simple. I love ABS because of how fast it goes in comparison with some stuff like cast iron. You got to cinch down each no-hub coupling. It's so much lighter than the cast iron. The only true benefit that I see with cast iron versus ABS is that the cast iron is quieter inside the walls. You won't hear a toilet flush or a sink run as much as you will with the ABS. So otherwise, I really like this stuff. The longevity I've noticed in my 15 years of plumbing is that the ABS definitely lasts longer. It doesn't rust up inside. I'll get, even after 5 years with cast iron, a nice little rust pile where the water is always, and there's more snake outs because of it. So there's so many benefits to the ABS. As well as the price. This is, a fraction of the cost of the cast iron. So that's how you cut and glue the ABS. And if you are under a house and you're hanging the ABS, you'll need plastic plumber's tape. The metal plumber's tape is not up to code with the plastic because it can dig into it and they don't want any holes in the pipe because of it. So they require you use the plastic plumber's tape, which is just like the metal plumber's tape, except it's plastic. It's got the same holes and can be hung the same way as the cast iron. You can do a couple little loop around there, hang it with one screw on a beam underneath the house like that, and I've got a little double loop on that one. Or you can do the same stove bolt trick like the cast iron piping, where you put one stove bolt there, one drywall screw on this side, and hang it like that. As far as sloping goes, the same requirements are required with ABS as cast iron, 1/4 inch per foot of sloping. And that's just kind of the general code for all of this. There are a few exceptions to the rule, but just remember 1/4 inch per foot is the minimum requirement. The correct hanging spacing for this stuff should be every 4 feet, and that's kind of the minimum requirement. So also, if you're taking a measurement, if you need to cut out a new section of the pipe, and you're taking a measurement from, let's say, here to here, it's really easy. You just go straight up to the end of this, exactly right there, and it's clearly marked when you're taking a measurement. So right there to right there, and we'll get a close-up in a second of this, the 2 ends, and then you can cut your pipe and get it in there.
Just talk about what you were going to say.
So I'm closing this in, locking it in right here, not too tight, and I want to go in a back and forth motion at first, not straight around like this, otherwise the wheel is going to track one side or the other. So back and forth when you start, just like that, in 2 different directions. At the same time I'm spinning, I'm also tightening up here with my hand. And this gives a much better cut than with a saw, and it's fast and accurate. You're going to take your measurement exactly right there at that edge, right here. And you can see where that is right here. The pipe will go straight into there, and that is where you'll take your measurement, just like this. So I'll put my tape measure on the top like that, and if I'm measuring to this T over here, I would go like that, and you can see it's here to here, about 13 5/8 inches.
Now once you have that cut to where you want it, you just take out your cement glue and you glue both sides. So that's that one side, and then you glue the actual pipe side as well. Right there is like 1 inch or so in from there. So just glue around there. And then you want to go ahead and make sure it's pushed all the way in there and tight. And I like to twist it just a little bit and then get it where I want it to be.
2 types of strapping. The double around, hang it like that, or you can hang it with 1 screw up on top and 1 stole bolt down where my fingers are right here.
And that's pretty much it. So there you have it. That's how to install ABS piping.